there's some stuff going on with the Daily Wire. Hi, I'm Kirsten, and I am one half of the Christian jazz pop duo Zoetic. This YouTube channel is made up of two types of videos: our original music videos, where we create Christian culture, and long-form videos like this one, where we critique Christian culture. We post these long-form Christian culture videos every other Thursday, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Also, these videos are now available in podcast form on all streaming platforms. The podcast is called Christianity and Culture, so if you prefer listening to podcasts over watching YouTube videos, you now have that option. Be sure to leave a 5-star review if you enjoy the podcast as well. Okay, so a lot of you guys might be wondering, why am I making this video? Because some people are going to say, well, duh, I mean, the Daily Wire is not a Christian company. They've never claimed to be, it's a political company. It's a content company. It's an entertainment company. So who cares? Like, what is this point that you're making that they're not a moral company? First of all, the Daily Wire has tremendous influence, and it's not just politically. Tremendous influence, tremendous moral influence on people, okay? And there was a time in my early 20s where I went to the Daily Wire more than the Bible itself for moral formation and advice, and they would be the first to say that politics gets messy, and it often gets entwined with culture and religion and values and all these things. So where you are getting these things from, it matters. And I will say that by and large, I have liked the Daily Wire. I've enjoyed their content for many years. I think they've executed tremendous cultural influence, most of it very good. But over the last 4 years particularly, I've seen the Daily Wire kind of go in a concerning direction. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today. And not all personalities at the Daily Wire I'm equally concerned about, right? So for instance, in terms of not being concerned, I mean, Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh do seem like devout Catholics. If I'm going to watch any Daily Wire content at this point, it'll probably be theirs. Matt Walsh has kind of started cursing a lot more publicly, which I don't think is a great look or a great witness, but in general, my issues aren't with either of them. I think they both do great work. I absolutely loved Matt Walsh's show, particularly when he started with the Daily Wire. They both have been extremely effective in the culture. So they're not really who this video is about. I'm not going to pick nits about them. And this video is also really not about Ben Shapiro, okay? And he's one of the heads, of course, of the company. So he bears some responsibility for certain things, I'm sure. But he isn't a Christian. And doesn't pretend to be one, has never called himself one. And so I don't levy Christian standards on him, okay? His political show is generally well done and uncontroversial. Doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, but there's been no, giant scandals. Even the situation between him and Candace Owens, I always thought that situation was very complicated. And to be perfectly frank with you, I've never loved Candace Owens's commentary, so that's not what this video is about. That's beyond the purview of this video, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I want to talk about now 3 people in particular who I am concerned about, and that is, in this order, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Klavan, and Jeremy Boring. And I'm concerned about them all kind of for different reasons. First of all, Jordan Peterson, who I think is brilliant. I think he's a brilliant psychologist, but he's not a Christian. And I already made a video about this exact thing, if you guys want to go check that out in more detail, but he's not. Okay, he's not a Christian. He acts kind of Christian adjacent to not offend his audience, but there isn't a such thing. You're either a believer or you're not, right? And I would rather somebody come right out and say, I am not a Christian, like Ben Shapiro does, than kind of be wishy-washy and Christian friendly like Jordan Peterson has, where he hasn't really given a straight answer to the question, but if you really look in depth, you can see that he is not a Christian. And something that is weird is that he is doing Bible commentaries with the Daily Wire, okay? He's done Genesis, I believe, and Exodus, and he's done some things with the New Testament. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I don't like the idea of someone who is not a Christian, who says things like, God is the ultimate fictional character, doing a Bible commentary. That's just really weird to me, especially when Jeremy Boring is supposedly a Christian. We'll get to that. And so is Andrew Klavan, and so is Michael Knowles, and so is Matt Walsh. It's just ironic to me that one of the few Daily Wire personalities who is not professed to be a Christian is the person doing a Bible commentary. And if he was just sticking to the Old Testament, okay, maybe, but he's doing New Testament Bible commentaries too. And I know what people are thinking. I know the objection. They're going to say, Jordan Peterson brings a different intellectual perspective than the other hosts. He's very respected as a psychologist and as an analyzer of great literature. But that's actually the problem. The Bible is not just a great work of literature that is brilliant metaphorically. There are many things in Scripture that are not meant metaphorically, but are actually supposed to be taken literally. And I worry that Jordan Peterson takes too much of the Bible metaphorically and extrapolates off the text too much. So that's my concern. My concern is that the Bible is not just a great work of literature, right? There are certain things that Jordan Peterson has confessed. He doesn't know if it's literal or metaphorical. And that's just problematic if you're doing a Bible commentary. I understand he's incredibly brilliant when it comes to psychology and literature, but if Jeremy Boring and Andrew Klavan and all, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles are supposedly Christians, it's weird to me that they're having a non-Christian do a Bible commentary, okay? Now, for Andrew Klavan, there's a different issue with Andrew Klavan, okay? So Andrew Klavan, Jordan Peterson does not claim to be a Christian, and he's doing a Bible commentary. Andrew Klavan does claim to be a Christian, but he has been, let's just say, weak on the issue of homosexuality. He's a professing Christian, but his son Spencer Klavan, who also has done a lot of work with the Daily Wire, is openly gay, and on several occasions Andrew has been asked about that, and his responses have been soft in my opinion. Okay. This issue has become somewhat of a litmus test because it really tells me if you believe that the biblical canon is inspired, if it's the inspired, inerrant word of God or not, right? I understand that homosexuality is not necessarily in any of the three ecumenical creeds, right? The Nicene, the Apostles, or the Athanasius Creed. It's not directly in any of those. But if you say, well, I think Paul was kind of wrong on the whole homosexuality thing, you know what I mean? Even Jesus, who affirmed traditional marriage, then, and you're cherry picking there, then how do you know anything else about the Bible is true that you say is true? It just becomes problematic, and you're denying biblical inerrancy, and that is a very, very slippery slope into progressive Christianity. So that's kind of an issue, right? To call yourself a Christian and have that be how you approach things there. And then finally, the CEO of the Daily Wire, so Jeremy Boring, is honestly probably the most concerning of everyone I've talked about thus far. And that's a major problem because he runs the company. So the first incident is with one of his reporters, one of the Daily Wire's former reporters, a guy named Ben Zeisloft. So Ben Zeisloft is a Christian reporter who used to work for the Daily Wire. When Ben Zeisloft reported on the chosen pride flag controversy, which I already made 2 videos on, basically Ben Zeisloft called out the Chosen for having a pride flag in their promotional material. He did that in his reporting, which was the right thing to do. He should have done that. Jeremy Boring, who was his boss at the time and the CEO of the Daily Wire, he tweeted this about that piece of Ben's work. He said, this is a disgusting piece, and I'm sorry we ran it. So he completely throws his Christian reporter, Ben Zeisloft, under the bus for literally saying that the Chosen should not have had a pride flag in the promotional material. Again, Ben Zeisloft was correct about this. I made 2 other videos talking about that. And Jeremy Boring continued below. He said, a show like The Chosen has 100+ employees. One of them brought a pride flag to work. That sucks, but it's hardly the fault of the show. Well, why is it not a fault of the show? Why can't you just say, please don't do that? The producer's response also sucks, but it isn't untrue. Okay, there is no you don't have to hire gay people if you don't agree with homosexuality allowance in U.S. labor law. Well, there is religious exemptions if you're a Christian company, but whatever. On the whole, this piece reeks of purity death spiral politics. Okay. Unless you are perfect, as defined by the ever and rapidly changing sensibilities of the moment, you aren't even good. That way lies madness. Hold people and organizations accountable, yes. Hold them to impossible standards and require death for their sins. I think actual Jesus had something to say about that. Okay, so basically, he's saying that it was wrong to call out the Chosen for putting a pride flag in their promotional material, more or less. First of all, can I just say, I dislike the pompous way that Jeremy Boring talks. He just talks in such a pompous, arrogant way. We're going to find out, to use a phrase borrowed from the Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro himself. Jeremy Boring loves himself some Jeremy Boring, right? But the controversy isn't about hiring a gay person. It's about bringing a pride flag on set and showing it in public promotional material for a show about Jesus. This is exactly what Ben Zeisloft had a problem with, and Jeremy Boring completely threw him under the bus. Ben Zeisloft, not Shapiro, by the way, they're two different people. Ben Zeisloft ended up quitting after that incident. Also, Jeremy Boring calls himself the God King, lowercase God King. He self-refers to himself as that, and other people at the company call him that. So this is a professing Christian calling himself the lowercase God King. In this video, he explains why. We're going to play that.
I will say, self-proclaimed. That may be inaccurate. I have to push back. I was proclaimed God King by one Andrew Klavan at the beginning of the Daily Wire. And I've given a lot of thought as to why he chose to refer to me as the God King. For one thing, I was in charge. I think it was his way of saying to all the young staffers, like, I know you're millennials, and I know you don't think that there's any sort of thing, any such thing as hierarchy, but you do have a boss. It's the Daily Wire God King. Jeremy, I think in part was to make sure that I never got any delusional notion that I was the uppercase guy as I was running the company and everybody had to do whatever I wanted. So in some ways, as with every interaction with Andrew Klavan, you never know if it's a compliment housed in a rebuke or a rebuke housed in a compliment. But somewhere in there, it was he who...
Okay, so Jeremy Boring says there that he didn't self-proclaim himself as the God King. Andrew Klavan, who, again, we also said is a self-described Christian, was the one to originally call him the God King. First of all, that doesn't matter to me. Like, Jeremy Boring also refers to himself as the lowercase God King, as we will see. Why would a supposed Christian call anyone that? Like, that's just weird. Also, just because it's lowercase and not uppercase, it's okay. If it's spoken, right? If it's spoken and not written out, nobody knows that it's the lowercase God King and not the uppercase God King unless you specify it by saying that, right? If it's supposed to be a joke, it isn't funny. You know, as Christians, we can have tongue-in-cheek, goofy nicknames that aren't bordering on blasphemy. I mean, this is just... He can explain it away all he wants, but the point is that he has to explain it away, right? He gets called on it. Jeremy Boring gets called on the fact that his nickname is the God King because he knows how it looks and it sounds on its face that to have himself be called that, the God King. At the very least, it's a third commandment violation, if also not a second commandment violation. And I understand that, they would say, well, that's legalistic and blah, blah, blah. I mean, there isn't any excuse for a Christian to call themselves or allow other people to call them something like that. There is one God King. It is indeed the uppercase God King, God, the King of the universe. Making it lowercase, you have to explain it away. Thessalonians 5:23-23 in the King James Version specifically says this: prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. Okay? To me, this does not avoid the appearance of evil. It is something that you have to explain away. This brings us to the very infamous video that was posted by the Daily Wire 3 years ago, where Jeremy Boring made a controversial commercial for his Jeremy's Razors.
Do you remember when there were two genders and only 1.5 of them had to shave their mustaches? Oh, hi. I'm Jeremy Boring, CEO and God King of the Daily Wire. Harry's Razors used to advertise on our shows. They're a great product, and we were happy to do it. That's before some peon who works for me went and said that boys are boys and girls are girls. And that was just too much for Harry's. They condemned our views held by millions of Americans and virtually every human who's walked the planet until about 15 minutes ago, as inexcusable. And they dropped their ads from our network because of what they called values misalignment. You're right, our values are misaligned. And it's not just Harry's either. Gillette razors used to be the best a man could get. Then they decided that men are too toxic. Unless you're the kind of man who teaches his daughter to shave her beard. If that makes sense to you, keep buying Gillette. But if you've had enough of the woke bull and you're tired of paying companies like Harry's and Gillette to hate you.
Okay, so then it just continues on and it continues from there. Okay, so first of all, obviously you heard him curse a few times in there, right? For those of you who can't see the video, he had a couple of women in very low-cut shirts in the video, but that's in the video. He also calls himself the God King in the video, so he flaunts his wealth. And what I would ask is, that doesn't mean that Christians can't make mistakes or that Christians need to be perfect, but are these the public actions of a so-called Christian? Looking at that video, Jesus says you will know them by their fruit. And this was intentionally made. And it's just, it's not screaming to me somebody who really loves the Lord and wants to honor him with his life. You know what I mean? They released another commercial 7 months ago with, more scantily clad women and more cursing. I'll play it at about 1:31 in there.
And for the commercials to be less macho, can we please lose the flamethrower and the car? It's overcompensating, and we need...
Who are you?
I'm Jessica. I've been following you around half naked for 2 years.
Oh, but that makes you some kind of expert on advertising? Besides, don't you think it's a little insulting to black people?
Oh, we prefer people of color.
Okay, so, yeah. These are not the actions of someone who wants to follow Christ. Doesn't mean we can't be entertaining, doesn't mean we can't use humor, but if you're compromising on Christian values to do so, it isn't worth it. And here's the thing. The Daily Wire probably won't respond to me because I'm small and insignificant and all this stuff. And if they did, they would probably say this: well, our content is entertaining and successful, and this is what is required to make money. And to that I say, I don't want success if this is the means by which I have to get it. Success is awesome and money can be nice, but both of those things can also corrupt morally. I've talked about this in many other videos. Matthew 16:24-27 says this. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of the Father with his angels and will then repay every man according to his deeds. Yes, I understand. The Daily Wire has been saying for years that Christians and conservatives need to make more entertaining content. Entertaining doesn't need to compromise morally. It doesn't. Also, when Spencer Klavan, yes, the aforementioned Andrew Klavan's son, announced his marriage to a man on Twitter, on X, Jeremy Boring responded to the tweet saying this: congratulations, fellas. May your lives be happy and edifying. May your lives be happy and edifying to two men who just got married. Jeremy Boring, their lives can't possibly be edifying because they are living directly in sin. To congratulate that when you know that, as a self-proclaimed Christian, it's just horrible. It's horrible. I'm not going to even go into the recent scandal between Jeremy Boring and Brett Cooper controversy that recently happened, but also let's just say that is an odd situation at best. Brett Cooper has been replaced. Her show has been replaced at the Daily Wire by her best friend and maid of honor, which is just, it takes my breath away how much pain that would cause if that was me. I mean, I work with my best friend, but if something like that happened, I can't even fathom how painful that would be. So I don't I don't want to speak more on that, but I think I've said enough. And again, why am I doing this? I'm doing it because the Daily Wire, more than any other company, has railed against cancel culture. But I'm not trying to cancel Daily Wire. First of all, I don't have the power to do that at all. And I'm not trying to go after their advertisers or anything like that. I also do think they have done a lot of good for the culture, but there are cracks in the foundation of this company. There's stuff about this company and the leadership there that I don't trust. And I am just cautioning people to be really careful before they give the Daily Wire a lot of money or even significant ideological credence. So with that, that is going to be it for me today. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more of these videos every other Thursday. Thank you guys so much, and God bless.